Peace. Welcome, everyone. Welcome to another rendition of the show of the Real 360. I am your host, DJ K Wise, along with my co-host, Josh Chanel Allah. So first, we want to give all proper due respects to the 5% nation of gods and earth, and to all the human families on the planet Earth. Today, ladies and gentlemen, is a very magnificent and special occasion for us, especially for my, I gotta say it for myself because it is an enlightening moment for all of us to hear and endure coming from a direct source of knowledge, wisdom, and understanding. So I'm going to pass the mic to my co-host and have him introduce one of the most greatest and elevated men on this earth. Peace, Joshua.
Peace. First and foremost, I want to say make peace be upon our sister Watisha. We lost yesterday. She didn't die. Her energy transferred from one individual to the rest of us in the nation of gods and earth. I want to start off saying that speaking about this gentleman here, Allah B means a lot to me because he is the root to my tree. A lot of people don't realize that how I take myself back goes to Allah B. And I'm more than proud and happy to say that because of the things that he has done and represented in his nation. Allah B has helped resurrect the nation. And the nation was saved. Him and the God resurrected the nation with the first dance back in 1970 out in the desert. Helped begin to show and prove. Held down the law school ever since he's been home. There's so many superlatives I can speak about when it comes down to Allah B. But for the most part, the love that my family has for Allah B, because Allah B has always showed my family love. So right now I want to introduce everyone that's following Real 360, that watches us, that listens to us on Spotify, iHeart. I want to introduce to you my big brother, Allah B. Welcome, Allah B.
Peace, God. Thank you. I'm glad to be on the show. Real 360. It's actually an honor that the gods is putting it on as they are. Communications is vitally important, and we communicating the truth to the world. So I say peace to the 5% nation gods of earth. The babies are the greatest, and we include all the civilized people on the planet in our peace. So as I said, peace. Thank you for having me on the show on this magnificent day of equality, and I'm glad to be able to share with you any insight to the knowledge of self that I can. And I think that would
Peace, God. I just want to
follow in your introduction.
I want people to understand that really truly what you mean to me. I don't care about a lot of certain things, but you honestly mean to me. You know what I mean? So today, you know what I'm saying, that I might be on some knowledge and wisdom with emotions a little bit. But I would like for you, if you don't mind, to give them how did you meet Allah? Not everybody know how you meet Allah. Some people might know the story, but some might not. So could you give them that history of how you met Allah?
Yes, it was I would say, a preordained blessing in that you say how I met Allah. The
Yes,
first time I
sir.
seen him, I didn't know who he was. Me and his son, his firstborn son, Allah, was doing our thing behind the Apollo Theater, where the father at that time lived on 126th Street and 8th Avenue, right down the block from the school, behind the Apollo Theater. And we had a little thing where I guess we was little hoodlums, wayward kids at 9 and 10 years old, directing the traffic through the back door for half price for kids to get in the Apollo Theater. And me and ALR and my crew and his band, Big Boy, was making money. And all of a sudden, Big Boy said, Buster, that was ALR's uh, nickname when we was kids. Yo, Dad, your father or something. I don't remember exactly. But he brought our attention to the fact that Buster Daddy was on the scene. And we looked across the street, and it was a slim man. He wasn't slim. He was, well fit, trim. I would say trim, looking at us. And he didn't say a word. But Buster had to break out and go with his father, his dad. And the interesting thing about it, that without the father saying one word, this had to be 1957 or 58. I don't recall exactly. But I'm saying one word. He directed us from behind the Apollo Theater to 7th Avenue and 126th Street, because he lived on 126th and 8th Avenue. So we wasn't going to follow him because we was in trouble. So we was getting away from the trouble, so to speak. So he directed us without saying a word to where he would come and get me 6 or 7 years later. And this is when I found out who he was, that I stole a hat off 125th Street and was running from the police. And the man must have seen me running because I seen a man's silhouette in the bar, the World Work bar where the father used to be, looking out the window, but I didn't recognize who it was. And I seen him come out the bar door as I'm running past, and he got in the same path that I was running, and he stopped the police from chasing me. And I felt as though he saved my life. So it was a life-saving meeting. And I'm 16 now, and I got to come back and thank the man who interceded on my behalf of stopping the police. And I was doing wrong. I stole a hat. But anyway, I came back the next day to thank him. And I went to 126th Street and 7th Avenue, the same block he directed me towards, without saying a word, that is, to look for him, but he wasn't there. But when I'm on 126th Street and 7th Avenue, I looked uptown to where I was going home, and it was a man there, had a crowd around him, and he was building. And I went towards the crowd, and lo and behold, it was the father. And I tell you, not only was I mesmerized, but I felt in love with this black man telling the truth as he was speaking about the original man. And that was it. That's how I met him. And from that day on, I got knowledge of myself. I already had knowledge of self, but I didn't know who our leader was. I hadn't made it personal of a true and living God. And when I went to thank that man who saved my life, I realized that was the true and living God. That's how I met the Father. And that's who I was with ever since.
When the father was teaching you, we was always was always told to us that he would give out the 1 to 40 first, pieces of the 1 to 40 first. And could you speak to that?
Okay,
Or he would
you
build
broke
on the
up
1
on
to
me.
40?
I heard something about the 1 to 40.
Yes. It's spoken that when Allah first started teaching, he would always speak from the 1 to 40. Could you speak towards that?
Yeah. Well, he gave us the meat, and it was tough in '64 because we had to come out, as they say, running. We had to come out fighting. We was like didn't have no adults to defend us other than the Father of Justice. So he made us strong and able to endure any opposition that came. So he gave us the meat, as we call it, 1 to 40. And although I had the lessons prior to the 1 to 40, when I really started studying, the 1 to 40 is the first one that I had transcribed. So we was giving it, the meat, the tough part of the lessons first, and the like boiled egg and the lamb later. But we got the tough part first, and it was tough because I always let people know that in 3 months' time of the Father teaching, if he begin at the end of September, either early October, and teaching the youth by December, they had tried to kill him and laid him down and said that he was dead, but he wasn't. And we were strong enough to realize and believe and know for a fact that you can't kill God and maintain our strength in just 3 months' time. And we was on, so I experienced that strength that he instilled in us, or we had from his teachings of being strong and ready to go and handle anything that come our way. Even if it was, death as those bullets came at him, they was death striking blows, but he defied it. And we defied it.
So after receiving the knowledge and receiving the meat, and like you said, 3 months later, he was shot.
Yes.
Could you speak toward that a little bit, of what their case? Because I understand he was there to save one of our brothers, make sure that they were safe, and he stood up for our family.
Well, I wasn't there, but the guards that was there, they were some courageous individuals. Like the black inside, he's about a year older than me, and he was in the basement that night. And when he heard the shots, he counted the bullets to see the guy run out of bullets, and he was going to get him. But he beat an older guard than us. He knew that those shots was not coming from a 6-shot or 5-shot revolver, that was automatic weapons. And he held Messiah back from rushing out there into the line of fire. But the Father handled it with no fear, because I don't know if you realize it, that he was upstairs when he was told that his brother was being held downstairs. And he had the option to flee or to run and get something before going down there empty-handed. But he didn't hesitate. He went in the lion's den and faced the fire that he knew was for him, although the dudes came under the provocation of extortion, that Shaheed, Pop, and Billy was talking about extorting some dudes that had some hashi, but they was using the 5% name as though if they didn't kick it out, it was going to be the 5%ers they had to deal with instead of Shaheed, Pop, and Billy. And incidentally, Pop and Billy got shot that night too. And Shaheed claimed that the guy went to fire on him and the gun clicked, so he didn't get shot. But he was the provocation for them coming down there. But we know that the provocation was only a subterfuge, a tool to be used They come against Allah. That they just use that as an excuse to come against them because they came with military style weapons. 30-06. That was unheard of when I was coming up. That was an elephant gun. That was unheard of it being in the ghetto. Somebody having that automatic 45. Those were unheard of. I mean, we had sit guns, and someone might have came through with a 38 at best. But an automatic 45, 30-06, elephant rifle, and it was said that one guy was upstairs with a machine gun. That when they came out, he blasted the machine gun in the basement to hold everybody back that he thought was coming up after him. So they had, military style weapons. Like this was a professional hit squad. This wasn't no street gang type shit. Street gang type shit. You got sidearms, really. Pistols. Not no guns that was highly unusual in 1964. I never even heard of an elephant gun until the father got shot.
Mm-hmm.
I heard of a machine gun before. I heard of a 45. I had a 32 built on a 45 frame. So I was familiar with automatic, but not that, grouping of high firearms with a crew in Harlem as they had when they came against the father in a well-executed plan.
And well, growing up, could you speak to the parliaments being every 25 days? Did the father initiate the parliaments being every 25th day, or was he just have cycles when you see them?
Well, when that started, it started in the month of November of '66, and the father was in Mattawan. We was going to see the father, but he didn't assign none of us to that responsibility. But Messiah came home in November. Dahu came home in November. I think Bishop was already home, but he had came from prison a while ago. And the father assigned them to do the ministry assignment, right? And we call it administrative. And it was always on the Wisdom Power Day, or the 25th of each month. And it was only 3 months that we actually did it. November 25th, December 25th, and the last one was January 25th, Equality Guard, 67. So we had to renew our history at that time every 25 days. As we used to say, every 25 seconds, every 25 minutes, and every 25 so and so. But that's how we used to run the parliaments. But it was for the examination of who was qualified and who was disqualified as far as being administrators of Allah's truth and righteousness.
Okay, so is that how the book, good book equality and bad book equality came into existence?
Yes. Like everybody that was examined, if they didn't make the ministry per se and become a minister that day of examination, they would go in the book as having been examined, and it would be determined whether they had a good quality. And the good quality was the good equality. And it would be determined by Messiah Bismail on the era whether or not they had a bad equality. It wasn't announced. The only thing that was announced was those who made the ministry. But you was classified once you took the examination. Whether you became a minister, administrator, good equality or bad equality. It was all noted.
Okay. With prior to the father going to Matterhorn, how often were there ciphers being built on 125th? Did you have to meet him at the fruit stand or somewhere to sit and build with him?
Okay, I don't understand the question. Could you repeat that, please?
Okay. Prior to Allah going to Madawan, I think there's some feedback somewhere. Um, somebody turn their mic off. I think it's the mic. Somebody mic. With the when it came down to meeting up with Allah, did you have to meet him at the food stand? Where did you have to meet Allah to have ciphers or for him to educate you?
No, well, that wasn't the process. The process was that you had to go through the son to get to the father.
Okay.
So some of the gods who had knowledge had to bring you around in the presence of the father. And in general,
Mm-hmm.
the father might ask you, who is that? Or you might attempt to introduce the person to the father if they was a, praiseworthy note, and then they would get to speak and see the father. But no, it wasn't just coming around and hanging out, because the young gods that was always on the set was always doing the examination of those that was around us. And we was thorough in examination.
Could you speak to when you met the firstborns of the nation?
Well, I tell you, I had already knew Messiah, Bishmi, and Yahara. We practically grew up together and went through different ciphers. In fact, like as I was growing up, the pool was in my neighborhood, the Harlem pool, that is. There was only one pool in Harlem, and everybody had to come uptown to my area, my street, to go to the pool. And I was shaking everybody down, the firstborn included. And one time, I was getting ready to get just me and Messiah in them, and just me cousin. Her name was Bertha too, big white girl named Bertha. Told me don't mess with her cousin. And this gave them a chance to run. And they ran out the neighborhood. And I had to fight Bertha for Bishmi. And Bertha was about 12, I was about 10. And she was about 6 feet. I was about 4'8", 4'9".
Okay.
And she knew how to fight like a man. So I was like, damn, he left me in this situation with this girl. And she was tough. We had like a Mexican standoff, but I had to get real dirty and hit her in the stomach. And you didn't hit no girls in the stomach. In fact, you didn't even fight no girls. And Bertha was the first girl that I fought and had to hit her in the stomach to win the fight, knock all the air out of her. But I didn't like Bishmi because he left me to fight the woman, Bertha.
Mm-hmm.
So we knew each other. And then when we got knowledge, all that we had in the past was forgiven, I guess, but it wasn't forgotten, and we just came along. Me and Messiah was tight from day one. Me and Yahara was tight from day one, but me and Bish had our conflicts from day one. He beat good. He was dynamite.
Oh,
Prince, me and Prince was tight. Me and Prince used to do a lot of dirt in the street when we became teenagers.
Mm-hmm.
So we was cool. Akbar and Salam, they was from uptown, and we was cool. Kahim, he was a baby. I didn't really know him until I really got knowledge. And when I got knowledge, that's when I first met ABG. Bilal was his name at the time. And we got to know each other. He was strong, he was powerful. But all of them had their good qualities and was damn good teachers. And we was out there like that.
Yeah. Now, with when did you start meeting the brothers from Medina?
Say that again?
When did you start meeting the brothers from Medina? When did they start
Well,
coming
I
around?
think I think in the beginning of '65, I think I met Sham God. Well, me and Shasha grew up together uptown. Shasha was originally from 144th Street between 7th and Lenox,
Mhm.
and we went to neighboring schools. But I met Sham God, Knowledge God, and Shasha. One time they came to ABG crib, and I think it was January or February of Equality Power. And that was it. You know, we met each other, we found out who each other was, and built from there. It was just
Okay.
like, these my brothers, and we're gonna be building together. And we worked together from there, and it was a lifelong relationship.
Okay. Now,
It wasn't it wasn't awkward or nothing. It was just natural. They got knowledge, I got knowledge, and we're gonna work this knowledge together.
with the knowledge, that's what bound y'all together. Because they
Yes,
always talk about how a lot of times the young brothers they used to live together, they were together at all times, and is that what bound y'all together was the knowledge?
yeah. Well, I had a thing myself that I used to like to travel.
Mm-hmm.
So when I got knowledge, I traveled all over Mecca, and I took all my students with me to meet their brothers. That we wasn't just isolated uptown. When I was first started teaching uptown Mecca, we wasn't just isolated uptown Mecca. We went downtown Mecca and seen more of the world of our own family, our
Mm-hmm.
brothers. Then when we got, you know, populace in Medina, I used to take the young guards out to Medina and just let them go for themselves. I'll be with the guards, the firstborn in Medina, in the crib, and we'll be building, doing what we're doing. And I would leave the young guards that I brought outside to go for themselves, to get to know the neighborhood, to get to know the people in the neighborhood, and such and such. Allah Shasha, he's still around today, and he'll tell you, I used to take them out there and just leave them out there. And Saheem, firstborn Saheem from Medina, used to always come out and get him and bring him into Hashim's crib. That was where we used to stay uh, in Medina, in Hashim crib. And Hashim was a very, very responsible God. That he had not only had a job, not only did he had knowledge, was he cemented in his knowledge, but he had a job and a family and maintained all of that, and had a place for us when we came to Medina to be in, as opposed to being in the street. So it was like a shining example. And when the father needed a UN representative, that's what he made the UN representative, Hashim from Medina. Somebody that was really responsible, diplomatic, and handled all his responsibilities real well.
So, can you speak toward the gods and earth, the 5%ers having representation inside the UN?
Yeah, well, there came a time in Equality God '67 when the father was approached, I guess, by somebody from the UN, because when he first came home, people came from the Senate to see him, United States Senate to see him, and foreign agents, I guess, foreign diplomats came to the school to see the father after the school opened up. So somewhere along the line, I don't know exactly when, where, and how, but they requested that we have a representative in the UN, and the father selected Hashim, and he sent Hashim to the UN to represent the nation. I don't know the particulars, but I know that Hashim was our UN representative, as the father told me. You know, just as he told me about Shasha, that was, you know, the chief of our Doom squad, but the father didn't want to institute a doom squad because we wasn't ready, and Cha was because he was just and true, and he really didn't have no unrighteousness. He was fair. He would give a person that was accused of anything a fair shot to defend himself and wouldn't take nothing on face value.
Okay. Oh, all right. Now, how long was your representative inside the UN?
Well, I don't know. I don't know how well the guard followed up. He never made a report back to us and told us what was taking place, anything of that nature. But I do remember a report from the New York City, Department of Employment. They had a document on us speaking about who we were, what we were about, what our flag meant and everything. And it was in precise detail what we would break down. So I know that they did some serious research, but I don't know who they got the information from. And I never seen the report. Either Hashim never reported that back to us about his UN activity. But I do know that the father was scheduled, or we, through all our was scheduled to meet with Chinese nationals on June 20th, 1969. And that never happened, as you know, that June 13th, the father was assassinated.
Right. Can you speak to when the black women became a part of the nation? When they started bringing sisters, we started teaching sisters.
Well, I don't quite understand because you broke off on me, but as far as I know, uh, the black women was always part of the nation. They was the father's angels, as he called them. And it go back to Sister Carmen. Sister Carmen might have been in the knowledge of herself before a whole lot of other gods because she came out the mosque with Shahi. And she was the first sister of the nation.
Mm-hmm.
And then Queen O'Malley, she
Mm-hmm.
hooked up with Prince. And she lived across the street from Messiah. So, I mean, it was early. It didn't take a long time for no queens to become members of our nation.
Mm-hmm.
And at the time, we wasn't calling them Earth, we was calling them daughters of Allah. The father was calling them his angels.
Okay. Okay, you had
Those
a question on that?
were the
That's a
first
lot
two.
big.
Huh?
No, Kay had
I
said
got
he
a
had wanted
question.
to ask you a question.
Yes, okay.
Yeah, absolutely. Peace, God. Could you elaborate as much as you know on the relationship between the father and May and Lindsay during that time, especially during the time like with the assassination on Martin Luther King Jr.? Could you describe the relationship that the father had with May and Lindsay?
Yeah, well, I believe it was a great relationship that uh, Lindsay embraced the father's truth in that he used to teach other Caucasians in government of what the father taught him. Like Lindsay was known for a statement that he made in Washington, D.C., in the Senate, that Allah was far more constructive and cooperative in face-to-face relationships and confrontations. That's something that he gave them on the Senate floor. He told them that Allah was not anti-white nor pro-black. And he in the Congress telling these people this at a time when Hoover was calling the father a rowdy black leader and that he was anti-white. And the New York police was saying the same thing. But Lindsay had got it from the father and he accepted it and went amongst his people, his kind, and revealed what Allah told him. And he revealed it just as it was. That Allah taught righteousness. Lindsay said that. He said Allah taught the knowledge of self. Lindsay said that. In the Congress. And in fact, Lindsay was so on point with it that he got a grant of $38 million by using Allah and the Five Centers as a case in point of the government coming back to the community and dealing with the people straight up without all of them phony leaders. That Lindsay started a task force in New York, and Barry Garter was the director of that task force, and he made direct connections and relationship with Allah. And he didn't have to go through no Saudi leaders. He went directly to the man in the street, so to speak, and dealt with what they were saying at that time, the most powerful black militant in New York, and that was Allah, as according to the police, because of things that nature. And mind you, the father just came home from Manoir. He was incarcerated in prison, confined for 22 months. And he get home in less than 4 months. He got a street academy, and not only got a street academy, but he got all of the resources that he needed to provide us with weekly activities of bus rides out the city, cultural events at the Apollo, Broadway shows, live concerts at big stadiums, and access to the public school. In fact, through Lindsay, the father instituted community boards. A lot of people don't know nothing about it, but the first ones that ever used the school for community activities was Allah when he started the Universal Parliament. Up until that time, when nobody using no school in New York City on a Sunday for any gathering of original people in the ghettos of hell. And then bam, sometime in September of '67, we got Harriet Tubman without paying a penny. I mean, we pay now because of different administration, but we got that without paying a penny. And from there, we talked about community control. Then we went to the community boards and got established community boards. It got big first in Medina. And one of the principles behind it was Sonny Carson, who used to come to Mecca and see the father and get a lot of instructions from the father, what he wanted, how he wanted it done. Because the father Sonny told me the father put him on me. And I was up in Pelon, and he showed me a lot of stuff on the political tip. But anyway, the father had outreach all over the city. And the mayor, he was just the central figurehead, being the chief executive officer.
Allah.
We break up New York State, which was the governor that came to us in '66 to ask us to take a message to Allah for his re-election campaign. That he said that he didn't want his campaign workers to be harassed or harmed in the political hotbeds of Harlem, South Bronx, or Bed-Stuy, and that he wanted Allah's word that they wouldn't be harmed by the 5%ers in those communities. And he used his emissaries to bring that to our attention. And we took it to Manoir and told the father, and the father told us they had nothing to worry about as long as they didn't come in our community telling lies, making promises and deceiving the people with them lies. But and then like the public seen it 3 days after King got assassinated, we had that big march in Central Park, and the father was on the bandstand, and the governor hugged the father. He didn't, and he thanked him too for keeping the peace. And nobody really knew where that was coming from, except those who was involved with keeping the peace and knowing about that meeting from '66, and this is '68, and the governor personally thanked the father in front of 72,000 people. But they didn't know. They thinking that the governor is only thanking them for keeping the peace in New York State and preventing major ad hoc in New York, where other cities was riding. In New York, the father stopped the ride. So they was under that impression that the father kept the peace in that regard. But they didn't know nothing about the secret meetings and the secret requests of the governor. So the father was very influential, not only with Menzies, but with the governor as well. Menzies was more out in the open, that when something came up, he came right to Allah and didn't hide it. His was open, where the governor, his was behind the scene. And they had a real good relationship that Lindsay invited the father to Gracie Mansion and introduced him to his wife, invited the father to his Christmas parties and parties of that nature. I'm getting uncomfortable. How much longer we got to go?
But it's up to you, Lord. If you're in a lot of pain,
14 more.
you know what I mean. You're in a lot of pain, then
Yeah.
we can cut it short a little bit because we understand. But at this point in time, I really wanted to touch on some things, and I wanted to tell you that how much I love you, how much I respect you, and as an big brother, you always, and when I call, you always give me some great understanding, and I wanted to speak to the unity of my big brothers, how y'all always come together, make things work for us young brothers, and lay the path on.
Yeah.
I don't want to hold you too long because I know you're in pain,
Yeah.
but I'm going to sit here and I'm going to tell you that I love you. I know you're going to say you're going to get stronger and get your
Yeah.
rest. All right, God?
All right.
So it's a pleasure, as always, and
Yes,
hopefully
it
one day
was.
you can come back and we can do this interview face to face after the COVID is over with.
All right.
All right, God, love you. All right?
Love you too,
Absolutely.
God. Thank you for having me on.
Praise
Peace
God,
and
love,
love.
be peace and
Everything you
blessings,
said.
God.
Same
All right.
here, God. Peace.
Peace.
Easy, God.
Peace.
All right. I'm going to leave.
All right, God.
Okay.
Finishing up for about the next 15 minutes. We didn't get a chance to touch on a few things that I wanted to because our big brother wasn't feeling too well. But for the most part, goes out to all our older brothers and sisters. You know what I'm saying? There's been a call for unity with the nation of gods and earth because we are losing some of the great nation builders, some of the great nation warriors. We are losing them, and we lost 6 within the last month and a half. It's getting to the point where we have to document this history. We have to show them the love today because the energy might transfer tomorrow. So at this moment in time, it was the opportunity for myself, K Wise, Real to Real 360, to give the shout out, to give the roses, to give the love to Allah B. I wanted to purposely give him that because he's always given me love. There's never been a time where Allah B didn't embrace me. So that being what is said, this was a perfect opportunity for me to give back to him publicly, give back, not privately. See, this is some things that individuals fail to understand. Like I didn't want to just do it behind closed doors because it'd been easy for me to just pick up the phone and call them and tell them, you know what I'm saying, how much I love them and how much I, you know what I'm saying, I appreciate them. But I wanted to be public because I'm a man. I'm God. And I understand, you know what I'm saying, having a supreme understanding with my air life. And I understand showing appreciation for individuals who are there for me, who I can go to for guidance or go to for bills and whatever question that I have, like the history of the Harlem Six, which I was striving to get into all of that, but again, you know, with the God's help not being the greatest, we have to start looking out for our big brothers and big sisters at this point in time. And Nation of Gods and Nerves, Laws 5%. This is the time, man. This is the time. There's no time for all the BS. We have brothers and sisters and they God ciphers. And they 70 years old, 80 years old, 70, 80 years old, that's going home. You know what I'm saying? That's returning to the essence. We got brothers and sisters 60 years old, returning to the essence. We got, you know what I mean? And during this COVID, it's really putting us in a situation where we have to get up on our health. We have to be conscious about our movements. So I was in a conversation with individuals about how do we do the real 360. We do it COVID friendly because you're in the confines of your home. As much as I would love to have done the face-to-face interview with the Law B tonight, and I know if I was in Now Why, if I was in New York, that wouldn't have been an issue because of the relationship that me and him had. Me and him been having since he came home. We was all a part of the free born of law, you know, history. When writing and subscribing and with the petitions. We was all a part of that free born of law. And when he came home, I was happy that he came home. I was excited that he came home, whereas I can get that history from him firsthand. See, that man of Law B, a lot of people might say whatever they want to say. That is a walking, talking library, historical individual. When you talk about having knowledge of self, he don't sugarcoat it. He give it to you the way it is. He give you the good, the bad, and the ugly. And he tells you to take the best part for yourself. So on this equality day, in the knowledge cipher month, in the wisdom cipher, wisdom knowledge year, I understood that him building and the way he builds was an enlightening moment for me. It was an enlightening moment for many others. We have to get to the point where we destroy the four devils amongst ourselves or within ourselves that we have for our own brother. It's not about that. It's not about who is in the limelight because social media doesn't mean anything when it comes down to be on the front line of our building. Because way before the internet, way before social media, way before any of this, there were frontline warriors.
That's right.
Allah B was a frontline warrior. The firstborns was the frontline warrior. You had the individuals coming from Mecca, Medina, Piedmont, the desert, Savior's Island, Lord's Island, Master Victory, Now Rule, Power Kingdom, the Beacon of Light. We've had them all. Come from all walks of life. The land of peace. You know what I'm saying? All in New Jerusalem. Building. Power Hill. I don't want to leave nobody out in the tri-state area during that period of time. The knowledge have helped many grow in many different ways. And it was all because of the frontline warriors, our firstborns of Mecca and Medina, individuals like God Supreme, who was young God at the time, individuals like Allah B, like Allah, those individuals, Akim, Gamel, and just some of them. Brown Sea Sham God, Black Sea Sham God, Yellow Sea Sham God. These are frontline warriors. These are just some of the few that I've had the pleasure even being around or just doing the knowledge to the cipher. Today we still have frontline warriors. Whether you like them personally or whatever the case may be, builders going to build. And we need to stand up together and build. Teach these babies, not just speak, teach these babies. Give them an opportunity to see the greatness in themselves. Manifest and show and prove the truth. Because at no given time will you know when your energy transfers. When I speak to brothers all the time, I let them know I love you, God. It got nothing to do with nothing else. Because I don't know if this be the last conversation. And like I said, I'm in my emotions because I'm losing individuals that when I was a child watching. I was a child watching Asian Mean and Queen Cypher and Gamel. Man, when you talking about wisdom, understanding, Watisha, Malik, hold your head, God. Hold your head, Malik. You know what I'm saying? The nation is right behind you, Lord. We support you. Watisha was a beautiful sister, and we all loved her. You know what I'm saying? It's you. I watched them coming up as a child. When I was closer to my universal family than I was to my actual blood relatives. Because we took care of each other. So, speaking to Allah be today, and like I said, I have conversations with him all the time. And he keeps me in tune with certain things. But the history that Allah B has will never leave this earth when his physical leave. Because he made sure that he poured into every individual that came amongst him. He gave every individual around him something. So if you're calling yourself a builder, I know the builders in every cipher in this universal family. You want to go down there to Truth Known? I can put you with the builders and Truth Known. You want to go down to Now See Savior See, Mississippi, Louisiana. Builders build. I don't care what area you're in. There is no excuse. Because brothers have sacrificed their lives. Sisters have sacrificed their lives for this truth. It's time for us to stand up and do what's needed to be done. You have children. Teach them their origins. Teach them who they are. That's what it's about. You can't sit up here and advocate that you are this and don't build to be born. Allah didn't make no stillborn thoughts. He manifested everything that came into his mind and he brought it into existence. So if you his son, that's what you do. If you his daughter, that's what you do. We don't wait for no mystery God. We don't submit our will to no one. There's ways that you can reach whomever. People talk about it's hard to get to the youth. No, it's not. Not long as you're amongst them. You got to be amongst them. You got to know the language of the people. See, being a 5% of where we come from, when we grew up, you know what I'm saying? You were taught that you had to learn the language of the people so you could speak to the people, then you could teach the people. That's how you raise the people because you have to know their language. So we're down to like 4 minutes, and we never got a chance to speak or to shout out those who support us, those who listen to us. This was an hour show today, but I want to say shout out to I5 Designs, my brother Brown Seed, Tashan Law out in Danville, Virginia. You can contact him on Facebook under Tashan Law or his beautiful Earth Tahira. They're both under on Facebook. Also, too, you can reach for all of your pastry goods. Ray Sweets LLC, which is Ray Smith in Charlotte, North Carolina. Um, Also, too, if you want that Fly Lord clothing, reach out to Ziggy Maserati, which is True Mathematics Zigzag Zigalaw. Y'all have to be patient with me today because to see my brother like that laid up in pain, it kind of take me through some ciphers right now. Um, but at this moment in time, also too, I want to say shout out Livation Nation Radio. I want to shout out Wise Man Production, which is as y'all see, this is our new logo that's on the side of Real to Real 360. That's Wise Man Production, and I want to shout out to Qasim Allah. Get better, my brother. The COVID will never beat you. I love you. Get healthy, and we'll be back building. Currently, at this moment, Saladin is building with Killer Priest on Killer Priest podcast. See, there's no four devils here because we dealing with two different things, and we always support our brothers. Deron Shavis, Murphy Lee, and Ali. Murphy Lee got his new joint is fire. New joint is fire. I don't give a damn with nobody. So his new shit is fire. Salema Dogo is up for re-election, up for election at this point in time. So go out and support the guard when it's time to vote. Like I said, Project 43.
Yes.
Wow, just the works that they're doing out there in California, and
Yes, sir.
the Big Boss Queen in Syracuse. Make sure you get your food from Big Boss Queen if you're in Syracuse, and then also to check out what she has going on with the community. All right, Mighty K Wise, I want you to take us out of here, Lord.
Yo, God. Yo, this was definitely an enlightening moment. And we do wish well speed and health recovery to Allah B. And we also would like to extend that to all people right now who are down and cold, feeling sick, dealing with this COVID situation and whatever we just want to make sure you do what's right for yourself and maintain your health. All right. Because everything about you is very valuable to somebody else, even within your own. What you have is the power of love. And we have that love to give. So we're giving this love to everybody. Take care of yourselves and take care of each one. I want to give a shout out to all the guards and nurses down there in Texas. Lord Hashem, Akil, Hakeem, Wise, Wise Allah. And if any of the guards I forget down there, Paul Self, and
My man,
Salvation Radio Network.
hold on, God, before we cut out. true born Maya Law. My brother out there in Houston building built that cipher
Yeah,
back up. You hear me? He rebuilt that cipher with the law's truth. Love you, Lord. Go ahead, God. I
indeed.
had to do
God,
that.
yeah, to give out to one of my old students, Knowledge Born. But we got the saga is continuing. This series is continuing. So tune in tomorrow, as our special guest will be none other than Divine Prince from the desert. There's Queens. Divine Prince tomorrow at the Equality Hour, 6 p.m. He will be here on the Real 360 show with us. So the series will continue, and as it continues and progresses, we're going to give you more and more history and enlightenment on Allah's 5%, the nations of God's and nerves. And I just want to say to all people, like I said, man, universal love is a powerful thing when it's done right. So whatever you do in your walks of life, make sure you do it. Take righteous steps and walk carefully. You know, you ain't no soft person for a man to tell another man that I love you and you meaning it. The love don't mean nothing if the love ain't in you to give it. Because when you give the love, you receive the love in actual facts. All right. And that's the love that we have. I love my brother in God right there. I love all my universal family. You understand what I'm saying? And that's sincere and truth. And on that, this is the Real 360 show. On behalf of my co-host Josh and Allah, this is DJ K Wise. We about to sign off, and as we always do, we always keep represent. You know what? I think I'm gonna take it out on some James Brown, though, girl. Let's just roll out with the Godfather. Peace and blessings to all.